So welcome back, everyone, to the We Weren't There podcast. I'm your host, Max.
And I'm your co-host, Ben.
And today we're talking about the second half of my favorite Roman political family, Gaius Gracchus.
Finally returning to the Gracchi.
Yeah, so just a heads up, this is like a semi-sequel to our very first episode. So you don't need to listen to that one. But if you'd like more context or like to hear about all the lead up to these events, it's all available. It's the very first episode on our channel. It's Tiberius Gracchus.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one that's been most listened to. So if anyone's returning, they've probably listened to that one. But it sounds like you won't need to.
No, you can understand it on its own. But I mean, if you're fascinated by this or you'd like to know like basically the prelude to what happens here, but anything really important, I'll re-mention again.
Perfect. Well, I remember. I was there, actually.
That's good. I was going to ask you how much you know about Gaius Gracchus.
I know about his brother.
That's most people say.
Yeah, no, honestly, I just know that he's more extreme and that his name's Gaius. That's about it.
Yeah.
Really, I don't know anything, so I'm very excited for this.
All right, cool. So it'll be new to you. I'm going to do it roughly in chronological order. I have a few digressions I got to make, but basically I'm just going to start with the introduction of who he is. So he's about 22 years old. He's Tiberius Gracchus' brother.
Yeah.
And he's about 22 years old when his brother is murdered in the Forum. That's where we ended the last episode, like the first episode.
Yeah, it was a long talk about what was going on in those senators' brains as they...
But he's 22 when his brother's killed, so he's a fair bit younger.
Okay, but he's still like an adult.
Yeah, he's an adult. It really marks him as a person. Like,
you're kidding.
Deeply. And he inherits the political legacy of his brother. So like everyone who's a Tiberius supporter more or less becomes a Gaius supporter.
Really a Kennedy situation going on here.
Well, especially in Rome, it's all about the family. And he's the head of the family at this point. He's the oldest male that's still alive.
Okay, so it's also all, I imagine, any Tiberius's wealth also probably went to Gaius.
Yeah, he inherited all of it, basically. He's the head of the family.
Yeah, Tiberius didn't have any kids.
No.
Okay.
So everything kind of goes to him. He's the most important man in his family now.
Sick. Sucks, but good for him.
I wanted to start with a quote. There's a few different versions of this story. I picked the one I like the most. It's probably fictitious because there's a lot of stories about how after he dies, for a while, like Gaius is struggling with that, and he gets visited by his brother's like spirit in his dreams.
According to, is this like from him? Did Gaius tell this story, or is that from
this
some
is from
guy
other
later?
historians. It appears in most of his biographies though. But what Gaius says is a little, or what Tiberius says is a little different. It's not really important to the history. I just picked it because I think the one quote I really like because I think it embodies a bit of what happens to him and what our perception of, like what most people's perception of Gaius is.
Okay.
So Tiberius appears to him in a dream, like haunting him, and he says, "Why do you hesitate, Gaius? There's no escape. One life is fated for us both. One death as champions of the people."
Oh boy.
So it really embodies that idea that like the common perception is that they're basically the same. He's just like Tiberius Part 2.
Okay.
I don't think that's true. That's what you often hear in like a survey course because there's not enough time to talk about the differences. And in brief, he kind of is Tiberius Part 2. But I think it's more complex than that. But it does show that people even back then would have perceived his legacy as that. And I think he himself kind of thought that his legacy was to like continue what his brother started.
I mean, especially when the family is so important. I imagine like when one Gracchus does something, then that encompasses every other Gracchus to follow.
But he gets haunted, and there's a few different things he says to him. But they all around this gist of we're going to live the same life. Like you're fated to die, but you'll die as a champion of the people.
Jeez,
basically.
I mean, that's pretty intense.
Yeah,
like
at 22.
At 22, like, oh, you're going to die for the people.
You're going to die like me.
Yeah. I mean, I can also imagine this comes from like Gaius talking to his therapist. It's like, oh, my brother died, and he talks to me in my dreams about how I'm next.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's too far-fetched to believe he was having nightmares about, he as far as I know, he watched it, like he was there, right?
Oh, yeah, he was in the room, probably.
Yeah, when his brother was killed.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, that can't do good things. And, you'll see later.
It'll leave some psychological
leaves
scars.
Some pretty big scars. I think it's also interesting to note that he's considered by Cicero, or Cicero, if you want to be correct.
Cicero.
One of, if not the greatest orator of his generation. So Cicero calls him the greatest orator of...
Isn't that what people call Cicero?
No, but Cicero calls Gaius...
No, but I'm saying for Cicero to say that as the guy who everyone calls the greatest orator of his time, that's a pretty big deal.
And I believe it. You'll see later. He's a very gifted speaker, and he's known for his really passionate speeches. And he basically invents a new style of speeches. Because before that, the Romans used to stand still when they would give passion speeches. He starts
so weird.
He starts pacing around the room, and he's even known to like rip his like togas off his shoulders and everything in like fits of like fury.
Wow.
So you'll notice you're always starting to see Tiberius. Say what you will about him violating a lot of laws, the dude was pretty peaceful and like kind of
At least he was nice about
conciliatory.
it. Okay.
Gaius, maybe because he watched his brother die. Maybe it's younger brother syndrome. I don't know.
I mean, clearly it didn't work.
He's a lot more hot-headed, and he's very much more of a firebrand than
I mean,
his
at
brother.
that point, if you see your brother literally standing still, like giving speeches about how you think one thing is best and support and all that, you know, you're not going to be caught doing the same thing. Maybe that's how they killed him. He was standing still the whole time.
And just generally, our ancient sources view him in a more negative light than his older brother, I would say. Even then, they're kind of mixed. Some of them are more positive towards, and some of them are more negative. I will say most of them agree that his end goal was very noble. It's his methods they all take a lot of problems with.
The ends don't justify the means.
Yeah. But I will say Appian, who's our most charitable description of him, the most charitable like quote about him is on account of so basically he was killed because of an excellent proposal he had that he pursued with violence. That's like his most charitable take on the Gracchi.
I mean, yeah. This is Rome we're talking about.
Yeah.
Everyone pursues their goal with violence. I don't know at what time he's writing this, but
he's saying that the violence is the bad part. The goal is noble. What he was trying to do is, and in hindsight, what he is trying to do makes a lot of sense. We'll get into what he is trying to do.
well, getting martyred is a great way to make your end goal seem better.
Yeah,
It's
and
like-
he becomes a bit of a, again, we'll get to this, but he even in his day, he becomes a martyr for the poor, and he gets kind of, he gets like, the Greeks have like hero cults.
yeah.
It's a bit like that, where he's not worshipped, but people view him in like a very, like, they elevate him after he dies.
He becomes like Romulus, I guess.
I wouldn't say to that point, but like for the poor,
Yeah.
basically. And much like his brother, his image has been simplified and I'd say rehabilitated with time a lot. Because now when we look back, we often think of them as like proto-socialists, like revolutionaries and that kind of thing.
Right. I mean, especially if you're trying to think of like someone in the USSR, this kind of syncretism and a noble goal trying to be reached through violence.
And he's often seen as a political reformer, like crusading against the corrupt elite. I don't think that's true.
I mean, he was an elite.
Or
right?
even if it's, yes, he is. But so are most revolutionaries.
That's true.
Even if this is true, I think there should be a big asterisk beside it. And we'll get into why. So that's just my little introduction to who he is. I'm going to start actually before he gets politically relevant. So
Okay.
we're going to start right in 133 when Tiberius dies. So before he's like in office or anything, he's still pretty young by Roman standards. So basically, I'm going to do like quick revision of what happens in the aftermath of his death. So Tiberius's body is thrown into the Tiber, the river. That's
Right.
what they do with infamous criminals in
With
Rome.
Tiberius.
Yeah. Interestingly, the Senate's reaction to his death is mixed. Because it wasn't all the senators that went down to beat him to death,
Yeah, no, just the ones that got irrationally upset.
So you'd think they'd be really on board with this, but there's a whole lot of debate about what just happened. They end up creating a special commit. So I'm
just thinking about like
how awkward is the next session?
like a Marvel like quip session like like I guess that just happened.
Oh my god!
Like just
Just like silence in the Senate the next day. Well, that was pretty crazy, right?
yeah.
So they do create a special commission that's led by the consuls, who are invested with the power to hand down capital sentences in order to prosecute like the supporters of the Gracchi, because they're seen as like insurrectionists and whatever.
Yeah, they're breaking the unwritten laws.
Yeah, and as a side note, this is arguably breaking the unwritten laws of the 12 tables.
Well, one person's doing it,
Because
Might
only
as well get in on the action.
only the Citizens' Assembly has the power to regulate capital punishment, not the Senate. Like the Citizens' Assembly would have had to vote to give the consuls the power, whereas the Senate just kind of told them they had the power.
Yeah,
It's not that important, but I wanted to show that it's still...
I mean, well, Tiberius was one of the tribunes, right, when he got killed?
Yes.
So, they're down one tribune. I guess it's like, well, they're not complete, so the Senate has like emergency authority, maybe.
Well, that's what they argue, basically.
Okay.
And the Citizens' Assembly is actually all the citizens in Rome can vote in that. It's not just the tribunes.
Oh, okay.
The tribunes propose legislation, and then all of the people would vote on it.
Right. But still, I'd imagine it's like we can't trust the Citizens' Assembly to
Yeah.
carry out what's best for Rome anymore.
So you would think this would be like a kangaroo court kind of deal where they just kill off all of them. It's not as extreme as you would think. Some of the men higher up in the movement ended up choosing banishment rather than face trial. That's a thing you can do in Roman law. If you think your chances are that bad, you can voluntarily exile yourself. They won't come after you.
That's chill.
Some of them decide to do that because they figured their chances were pretty slim in a jury composed of senators.
That's fair. And especially if you're rich enough, I imagine it's like you can take your wealth. And
Well, to a province even.
Yeah, so
you can't set foot in the city. Or like to, I don't know, Carthage or something.
Yeah, so at that point, it's like, how much, like it's exile, I guess, but it's like, oh, you get to live the rest of your days in a villa
in Asia Minor or in some kingdom.
Yeah.
We'll get to this, but we do know that at least 2, I don't know how many, but for sure 2 of them are named as being convicted and executed.
Oh.
So it's not like they're not killing people, but it's not as extreme.
It's the like what they say in their trial. Like
I
they
wonder,
must have been especially egregious.
Some of them were also tried and acquitted.
Okay.
Gaius wasn't even prosecuted, so some of them were just let off because he's not involved. He's too young to be in politics. People like that, on the more on the fringes.
Right. I guess at that point, 22 would still be seen as like
he was on the land commission, but he wasn't an elected official.
Yeah, and plus like the land commission itself was like established legally, right? Like the Senate did approve it. They just didn't give them any money. So participating in that system doesn't necessarily mean you're in cahoots.
And he's not like he's not like a threat to them right now, or they didn't perceive him as one anyways.
Okay.
However, we also see a counter response to this. This is the other side of the mixed reaction. There's a guy named Marcus Fulvius Flaccus. Great name.
Flaccus.
Yeah. Who is a bit of a mentor figure to Gaius. He like becomes kind of he's about 5 years older than him, and he kind of takes him on as if he was like his older brother.
Replacing Tiberius
a
real
bit,
quick.
yeah. In politics, and he's like very connected to the family.
Okay.
He's pissed about this. So he decides, he announces publicly he's going to bring Scipio Nazica. I don't know if we talked about him.
I don't remember, no.
To justice. He's the one who like incites the mob that goes in and kills.
Okay, yeah, I don't think you mentioned his name. You just said like there was a specific senator.
But yeah, it's Scipio Nazica.
Nazica.
So he announces publicly, I'm going to bring him to justice, and he also assembles.
Right, I feel like of all the people who should have been executed, he'd be one of them, right?
Yeah, and he assembles a mob. He's also Pontifex Maximus at this point, Scipio Nazica. So he's
Nazica is like the head priest.
Yeah, he's protected by the law as well. So
wow.
We're building up to a really problematic situation. And he wants to bring him to justice since, well, one, he was guilty of the secular crime of murder. It's not illegal to kill people in Rome.
Okay.
But also the religious crime, because he killed a sacrosanct individual. Because when you're in political office, you're protected by the gods.
Right.
It's a much more serious
tribune of the plebs, too.
Mm-hmm.
It's not some
serious
minor post.
No, it's a much more serious crime to kill an elected official. So the Senate doesn't want to deal with this. Decides to ship him off because there's basically an angry mob that wants him to face justice. They decided to ship him off as part of an embassy to Asia Minor and like kill his career basically.
Wow.
So it's the end of his career. They're like, go deal with something in the provinces.
They turned him into an ambassador to the UN. Wow.
And it would have been the end of his political career, but he dies like a year later when he's on that ambassador trip.
Oh, there you go. Problem solved.
But all this to say that
actually, well, I wonder what he died naturally or
he did. He was old.
Okay.
But I'm just gonna call him Marcus because it's easier. Gaius, his mentor. He he's a senator, so it kind of shows you that there's still people in the Senate that aren't all on board with the mass killing of people in the forum. Basically.
Right. Yeah, okay. Makes sense.
But I think the vibe right now is everyone just wants shit to calm down. Everyone just wants it to simmer down, which is why I don't think the commission headed by the consuls went all ham and started executing anyone who was involved with them. They just want things to simmer down and not provoke more tensions. Right?
Yeah, I mean, clearly it was like a crime of passion before.
Yeah,
with
so they went
Tiberius.
after some of the really big names, the really egregious people. They acquitted a bunch of them as like a show of good faith. They even exiled, basically, they sent him on an ambassadorship, but basically exiled the guy responsible. The hope is that people will be able to reconcile and it'll be done. We'll be done with killing each other in the streets.
Nice. Yeah, Tiberius made up a big ruckus. He got killed.
It's
now let's
messed
just
up.
get back to normal.
Let's
It
get
wasn't
back to
cool. Like
The Senate's like, this isn't okay.
yeah, we weren't cool with necessarily his ideas, but also it wasn't cool to kill him like that.
Yeah.
So let's just simmer down.
Simmer
here.
down, yeah. So the Land Commission also still remains. It's allowed to continue its work.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Is like the Land Commission becomes a pretty like a part of the politics in Rome for like a long time.
Yeah,
until,
his
like,
legacy.
Caesar.
I would say his legacy does survive in that in a lot of ways, and it's still headed by like a lot of his allies. For example, Marcus and Gaius are still on the Land Commission,
Right.
and there's a few other people that are less important but are still close allies of his.
Yeah. So he didn't die in vain so much.
No, however, it is a mess. The Land Commission, as it always has been.
I'm sure, because it's just the thing. It only existed based off the will of Tiberius. If he's dead, then
It also exists on a bunch of false pretenses, like that there's a bunch of land in Italy that's being used by latifundia, like those big
Right.
conglomerates. When that's not true, then we know that now with archaeological evidence that it was a bunch of smallholder farmers. Remember I explained to you it's because so many people were surviving now that they had too many sons to give to inheritance. It was smaller and smaller piece of land.
Right.
See the first episode if you want an in-depth explanation about the land politics of Rome.
Yeah,
Basically, what
and I'm
happens,
assuming they don't get to keep that Greek kingdom that just got given to Rome either.
they get to keep it.
Well, the land commission?
Oh no,
Yeah, no, the land commission doesn't get it. I know that
it becomes part of the.
it becomes the Roman
Republic.
but like the land commission doesn't get to keep the thing that
To
Tiberius
redistribute,
tried
no.
to steal.
All the money from that. So basically, what happens is it gets bogged down in lawsuits because what they're trying to take is primarily not Roman land anymore. It's from their allies.
The client kingdoms and stuff.
So I'll get into what an ally is and all after. But basically, you imagine the cities that aren't Roman citizens that are part of the Roman Republic. So they're still subservient to Rome, but they're not citizens.
Yeah, they still get some self-governance, I imagine.
Yeah, they're trying to poach land off of them.
Okay.
That they say is, but with the same rules. Like you can't own more than a certain amount of land.
Okay.
So if you're really wealthy, they'll poach it off you because it's a redistribution.
I see.
But it's really unclear who owns all this land because never been a comprehensive survey. So they get bogged down in lawsuits and legal battles about who owns this.
The
this, and that.
NIMBYs.
Yeah. Really,
Things never change.
really quickly after this, their impartiality also gets put into question to the point where the Senate suggests shifting the responsibility of judging these land claims over to the consuls instead.
Okay.
Who conveniently decides to leave for a war in Illyria, in like Croatia.
Illyria.
Illyria. To avoid having to deal with all the land commission stuff that he now has to deal with.
It's like I'd rather just go to war.
So
Especially Illyria was like a famously like tough place
To fight,
to
yeah.
fight during that era.
And I was saying that they've never done a proper survey of the land.
Mm-hmm.
Even the land they do manage to redistribute is often unproductive. I forget which ancient author says this, but he basically says they're putting people on swamps and ponds, like just all this useless,
sick! You got
useless land.
the malaria factory.
Yeah, because it's a big swamp. And most importantly, as we discussed in the first episode, there wasn't actually that much land to redistribute. There were just too many small farmers already. So it's very unsuccessful in its stated
It's so
goal.
funny that the problem is like the exact opposite of what people thought.
But that's because, remember, I was telling you people lied on the census. There was all kinds of reasons. Like, they were working off bad information. They really thought.
No, I know, but it's like, then you're just working in the complete opposite direction.
doing
So
nothing.
things are just getting worse than nothing. You're going in the opposite direction of what needs to be done.
And that meant that the land had to be seized from their allies, right?
Right.
If they held too much land. But because they're allies and not citizens, they're not eligible for redistribution. So the poor in those cities aren't getting the land that their wealthy citizens would hold, if that makes sense.
So it's not like
They're taking
it's
it
being redistributed
to poor Romans.
Romans, not
Yeah.
actually to people who live there.
So all of the upsides, all of the downsides, none of the upsides for the allies.
Cool.
This becomes
Socialism
a problem.
for me and not for thee.
This becomes a problem. This will eventually escalate into the social war much later. So I'll do a little digression on Roman citizenship because it's really important to this story. So there's roughly 3 tiers. It's way more complicated than this, but basically in brief, you're either a full Roman citizen, you have your full legal rights, you can vote, whatever. You have Latin rights, which is most of the legal rights minus voting, primarily.
Okay. Mostly among, I'm imagining, like Latins. So like
Yeah, and Roman colonies.
and colonies. Okay, so
Descendants of Rome or like allies. who've been
right,
there
but
a
like
long
if a
time.
Roman citizen was in like the colonies, they wouldn't be a citizen anymore.
So basically what happens is when they establish the colony, you can give up your citizenship in exchange for a free piece of land and a bunch of money to set up shop.
Oh, okay, so you can like
But if you move
sell
there,
your citizenship.
yeah, if you move there with the citizenship, you have it for life.
Okay.
Unless they revoke it, I guess there. And your kids would have it. But the thing is, most of the people who move there are poor, so they decide to sell their citizenship for
Right.
land and equipment, and they become Latin. They have Latin rights, and their kids have Latin rights.
Okay. I see. So yeah, it's still just a step down, but you get some wealth in the process.
That means like you can marry Roman citizens still. You're still entitled to all the legal benefit. Like you're entitled to like a jury of your peers and like appearance in court, and you can petition. You just can't vote is the big one.
Okay.
But you are subservient to the government in Rome. That's a key one.
Well, yeah, if you can't vote, then you're still subject to its edicts.
You're subject to their taxation, their edicts, their laws. And then there's allies. So allies have basically no obligations aside from A, pledging loyalty to Rome.
Yeah.
B, providing soldiers.
I was gonna say like some sort of tribute, I'm sure.
They provide legions basically. So this was explained in my class, for every Roman legion, there's always like an allied legion that's shadowing them.
Okay.
And those allies are made up of other Italian cities.
Yeah.
Each
Okay.
city has their own agreement with Rome. So it's very complicated. They all
The
have their own
Holy
rights.
Roman Empire. So I guess it's not so far.
They all have their own rights and privileges, but generally they're afforded the right of self-governance. They can elect their own municipalities. They can keep kings if they have them. There's like really, you can kind of do what you want.
Yeah, you just have to give us soldiers when we need them.
Yep. Yes. And then, so there's a big change around this time in the politics of these allied polities, I don't know, cities mostly, allied cities, is that they start to want citizenship. Because before this, they didn't always want citizenship. Sometimes citizenship was doled out as a punishment in early Roman wars.
How is that?
Because when you become a citizen, you're subject to Roman taxes, and you're not allowed to govern yourself in your own way anymore. You're subject to the Roman state.
Yeah, so you get to participate in whatever pseudo-democracy they have going on, but actually not even pseudo, they wouldn't call it democracy. So
They're republic, basically.
They're republican system, so you can affect change within it, but now you're like part of a much bigger system. You're a much smaller cog in this larger machine.
And you have to pay taxes.
And you have to pay taxes.
And you have to serve in the legions, because you still have, every man of military age gets conscripted if you're a citizen.
Damn, okay. That is back when citizenship wasn't just a privilege, it was a punishment.
Yeah, I think it was really funny. Well, it's arguable. Some of them would have wanted it, some of them wouldn't, but it was sometimes doled out as a means.
Well, I'm sure it's very much a punishment, I imagine, for like the elites in the city.
Yeah.
But then like whatever poor, especially if you're in a city that like like a monarchy where like the poor can't really participate, then it's like it.
Yeah, except now you got to serve in the army.
Yeah, but the army still gives you opportunity.
True. But that's the thing, it's a big debate about
they feed you usually.
True. But you do have to pay for all your own equipment.
Yeah, well, the ancient world sucks.
Yeah. And also, when you're an ally, you do get you're still entitled to a share of war loot.
That too, yeah, I can imagine that's
because you're involved in the fighting, because there's always an allied legion with a legion. They're entitled to like half the
yeah. On top of whatever you can steal off of whatever corpse you find, I imagine that.
Well, it's actually
very.
I don't know if we have time to get into this, but it's actually very systematized. A lot of the looting in the early Roman Republic when they're at war, there's a big system of dividing it between everyone equally. So there's
no, but I'm sure some people.
Well,
pocketed
no
things.
doubt stuff slips through the cracks, but generally,
saying you find an expensive ring, you don't necessarily want to declare it and split it with your buddies.
But now that, because we're in the era where Rome's a hegemon, they're not effecting huge conquests like they were against Carthage and Macedon and everything. They're increasingly relying on income from taxes rather than pillaging, and those allied cities are not entitled to any revenue from taxes.
Okay.
Because they're not part of the Roman state. So why should they get taxes that are levied by the Roman government?
Right. That doesn't make...
So they want like a piece of the prosperity that's a prosperity pie, basically.
Yeah. Since Rome's the hegemon, they want their equalization payments, if
basically,
you will.
because before that, they didn't care they weren't making taxation money. Because basically, like, they tax all the citizens of Rome, whatever. They didn't care about that because the lion's share of the money coming in was from conquests.
Yeah, and I imagine also the big benefit of being one of these allies is that if they were to be at risk of being conquered by another, then they're protected from Rome, right?
I mean,
the agreement is that the allies would have to provide legions to
if
Rome.
Someone tried to attack
but
them,
if someone
like
tried to attack
Rome,
the allies, then it'd be like attacking Rome.
Because they're part of the Republic. They're a constituent part of...
Yeah, so they have self-governance, and on top of that, they have protection of like one of the biggest competitors in the region. But now they're the only competitor in the region. There's no like benefit to being defended, because then who are you being defended from? The only other guy is Rome.
So yeah, that's basically why there's a big push for citizenship around this time.
Okay.
And Marcus, the guy I mentioned before, actually is the first guy when he was consul to propose a bill to extend citizenship to all the Italian allies. And he starts introducing Gaius to this idea. But it gets shot down by the Senate for many reasons. It's also generally unpopular with most of the urban plebs in Rome.
Well, yeah, they're special. They got their privileges.
They're really worried about it diluting their voting power, because I think I read it would add something like 400,000. It would double the voting base. So each individual vote would matter a lot.
And also it means that all these other cities and just middle of nowhere Italy, all of a sudden they get to decide what happens in Rome, where I live.
Yeah.
It's the whole DC dilemma right now.
And there would also be more competition with the elites from those cities for high positions, because then they could run for consul and tribune and everything, right?
Uh-oh. Yeah, I imagine even the elites don't like it.
Yeah,
in that case.
It's really unpopular in Rome in general, even with the poor.
Yeah, because their whole thing is that the Romans get to control everyone else. Now everyone else gets to control Rome. That's not cool.
So Marcus does this because he kind of foresees there's a few reasons. but basically it's because he kind of foresees the problems going on and how this is probably going to boil over at some point if they don't deal with the fact that there's all these disenfranchised, angry people that's roughly the same size as Rome.
Starting to sound familiar to what happened in Spain in the 1970s, but I digress.
So, yeah. And we know the Italian allies didn't take this well, that this citizenship bill was shot down.
I imagine it was done like super quickly too. It was like, here's a proposed bill.
He doesn't even get a chance to officially propose it. He like floats the idea and they tell him like, don't even bother. Like it's going to get.
Oh, it's even worse.
Yeah. But this news apparently reaches them because we know at least one city rebelled. And now we get, the Senate is like, well, shit, we got to deal with this. So they send Praetor Lucius Opimius.
Opimius.
Yeah. Remember that name. He's going to become important later. Right now he's a Praetor. He's like lower ranked. He's working his way up.
He got sent to squash a rebellion. That's pretty good.
And when he squashed the rebellion, he sacks and destroys the city famously. Like burns it to the ground. Like
a city of Rome.
An allied city.
Okay.
And you can see it in the archaeological record.
Oh boy.
That like the city was burned. He sacks and destroys the city, and it's viewed as a brutal suppression even in his own time. He has to answer to the Senate for this act.
Yeah, it's like, dude, we told you to squash the rebellion, not to destroy the city.
You'll see he has this kind of personality.
Oh my gosh. And yet they still keep him in the military.
No, they keep. You'll see.
Okay.
He becomes a really important player for a long time, even after this. He answers to the Senate. Basically, they're like, well, he did what we told him to do.
He got the job done.
Nothing
even
comes
if he
of that.
did more than we asked him to.
But the people, the ancient historians writing about him are like, yeah, this was messed up. Like that he burned a city to the ground for
Although I
rebellion. That's
imagine-
really uncommon.
I imagine it dissuaded a lot of other allied cities who were thinking about.
Maybe that's why only one of them rebelled.
Yeah,
We don't
because it got burnt to the ground.
We only know of one. There might have been more, but we only know one, and the one that we do know of got burned to the ground.
So yeah, so it's like, would anyone else like to try?
Yeah, I don't think so. So overall, land commissions doesn't do too much but piss off the allies. It's really ineffective. It just pisses off all their non-citizens.
Oh, okay, so it didn't quite do that.
The Senate then finds an opportunity to like, this is going to become a problem, but we don't want to enfranchise them. So they try to position themselves as sympathetic to the allied cause. So they can do like, and say, we'll dismantle this land commission that's stealing all your land. Like, we understand your plight. Because then they can do the double whammy of getting rid of the land commission, which they hate, and also appearing to take their complaints seriously without having to give them citizenship to like calm them down, basically, and be like, we're your friends.
So it's like a concession.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, we'll
it's not
stop
really.
stealing. Well, no, I know, but
Because the Senate doesn't want the land commission to exist.
yes, but that's what I'm assuming it's all part of the Roman state, right? So it's
Yeah.
like if they dismantle one part of the Roman state, then it's like, look, we're taking this down because, yeah, I don't know. That's such a weird position.
But for them, it's
It's
smart.
a win-win for the Senate. I understand.
And the allies get what they want a bit too, because they don't. No one's gonna be stealing their land anymore. To
Yeah.
redistribute to Romans.
Right.
But it just basically kicks the can down the road.
Yeah.
Further, because this still becomes a problem later. But it kicks the can down the road. They're temporarily satisfied.
Yeah,
right?
because the Senate doesn't sacrifice anything.
No. And you know how they do this? The legalisms they use is basically they argue that the commission has no right to redistribute these lands because what they're doing technically belongs to the domain of foreign policy, which is the purview of the Senate, because they're not dealing with Roman lands anymore.
The Roman allies.
They're dealing with Roman allies. So the Senate gains the power to mediate disputes, and they just don't mediate any more disputes. So it means the work is not done anymore. So it still exists. It's just not used.
Okay. So it's another office you send people when you don't want to get them out of politics.
It's a dead end, you know?
All right. That's cool.
So this is all leading up to Gaius Gracchus becoming important in politics. So now we're going to talk a little bit about him and his rise to power. So basically he spends the late 130s. So remember, Tiberius dies in 33. That's
okay.
One. So he spends the late 130s, early 120s in the army, because if you want to serve in high office, you got to do 10 years of service in the military.
By the way, yeah.
Yeah,
Just to be clear,
BC. We're still in the BC, yeah.
Got it.
And he serves in the Numantine War and he is a soldier. It's not super important what he gets up to over
The
there.
Numantine War?
Yeah.
Which is...
In Spain.
Okay.
It's one of the deadliest, how do I put this? It's one of the hardest wars Rome ever fought. It's in Spain, and it's a bit like their Vietnam, to make a crude parallel, because it lasts for years and years, and everyone ends up fighting there for a little while, and it's just basically these rebel groups and these groups of people who don't want to be subjugated after they conquered all that Carthaginian territory up there.
Right.
And it's cost them a lot of money. It's like a really bad war for them.
Yeah. Okay, wow. Yeah, that's a tough one. We don't hear about that one, that's for sure.
No, you hear about Carthage and Mathazon, but you don't hear about, we're the hegemon, but still we've got on the outskirts all these ongoing like guerrilla warfare basically with these tribes.
No, it's the same thing with Illyria, right? It's like it's tough to like nail down an area when it's not like a centralized state as much.
Well, there especially, it's a bunch of different groups that just don't want to be subject to Roman rule.
Yeah.
And they're in the mountains of Spain, you know?
Yeah, especially fighting in the mountains, that's tough. Especially because it's hard to hold on to, right? It's like it's not as much, we're holding on to a bunch of like easily attainable land that we can turn productive, whatever. No, it's a bunch of mountains and hills.
That's why like nominally the Romans control most of Spain, but realistically their control extends along the coast and around major cities. But as you go inland, it's just like it's free for all, you know. They don't really have any ability to exert authority, and this war goes on for a long time.
It's a bunch of Ibero-Celts and whatever the other indigenous groups are in the area.
So yeah, he serves there for 10 years. Serves well. There's not a whole lot to say about that. Nothing particularly good, particularly
serves
bad.
with distinction.
You know, like every rich person. We don't even really know what office he held there. It's really nebulous. He might have been a military tribune. He might have been
infantry.
Anyways, he does his 10 years of service. That's what's important. Then he comes back and he wins an election as one of the quaestors. So those are people who manage the money and logistics of the empire. There's a lot of them.
Sick.
He wins
the bureaucrats.
He wins for the year 126. So he's running in 127 and he serves in 126. It's always for 1 year terms.
Right.
And he ends up, so basically they draw lots to decide like what specific job you're going to do, if you're paired with a consul to manage the logistics in the army, or if you're in the main treasury, whatever. And he draws the lot that lets him go with a consul to war.
Ooh.
This is good for him politically. He ends up paired with a consul. This is a good indication too that he wasn't being sabotaged, that people didn't see him as like a threat like his brother.
Okay.
Because people would have maneuvered around him to not get him the good job, basically.
Yeah, I mean, if he was like, especially
like no one's really trying to impede his career yet.
Yeah, I mean, they destroy the land commission. They're really destroying Tiberius's legacy, but they're like, but his brother, he's not the same.
But yeah, it's important because you might think that they're really out to get him, but right now he's following the fairly normal progression of Roman politics. They're like, let's let bygones be bygones, basically. They're still holding on. They're holding on to that reconciliation.
We sent him to Roman Vietnam, you know.
Yeah,
I think we did enough to him. Well, we can bring him back.
Yeah, and then he works with the consul. His name's, if you're curious, Lucius Aurelius Orestes.
Aurelius.
Yeah. It's not super important, but
no.
to help suppress a rebellion in Sardinia. So he's there.
In Sardinia?
Yeah.
Okay.
And while he's there, he's managing the logistics and the economy of the soldiers, whatever. And this takes more than a year to do. So as is pretty common in Rome, they extend both their commissions for an extra year.
Right, to finish what they're starting.
Yeah.
Instead of the turnover would kind of delay things.
Yeah, it becomes a bit complicated, so they let you stay. It's very normal. This happens a lot.
Okay, for the quaestors?
Yeah, and for the consul.
Oh, and for the consul.
Yeah,
okay, that's a not one you hear. I've heard.
No, and he also really wants to triumph. This guy, so he really wants to do well. So he petitions, and they vote to let him stay.
I didn't know you could do that. You could vote to keep a consul in office for another year.
Yeah, you can extend if they're in the middle of a war usually.
Yeah, I mean, I know, but like,
so you don't have to keep calling. Sometimes this happens where you call them back and they swap. But if it's like this, where he probably made a good case for himself and he's got a lot of connections, they'll let him stay.
That's fair. Okay, okay, that's interesting because I always hear it's like, they had the consul there, and then if things are really bad, they get like a dictator, and like they vote one in like that. But very rarely do I hear, it's the same guy, it's a consul, but he just gets another year.
Yeah, but you know,
I mean, I understand. It makes sense. Again, ruling for just a year, especially in a time where information doesn't travel as fast.
And imagine swapping out your logistics guy every year too.
Yeah, no, like I completely understand why they did it.
It happens though when they fall out of favor politically a lot of the time. If they're unpopular, if they lose a lot. Yeah, this happens a lot where they'll get voted out.
But if he's doing a good enough job, it's just taking a while.
Yeah, because it's a rebellion, you know.
Okay, that makes sense.
So he gets extended. Extended once. This takes even longer. Extended twice. This takes even longer. The third time. So this is 120. Well, they try to extend him into 122 BC, right? So he would serve for that year. The thing is, Gaius is a little pissed because he wants to run as tribune of the plebs, and to do that, you've got to run in person. You have to present yourself in person. He can't do that if he's in Sardinia.
Yeah, managing this war. This war that's obviously not going as well as they thought it would.
And he does get his triumph in the end, by the way, in 122.
Good for him.
And this would have reflected...
And he's remembered in the history books forever.
And it would have...
Just kidding. Who the hell is he?
He's remembered because Gaius was his subordinate, basically.
Yeah, for being Gaius's boss.
And it would have reflected well on Gaius, right? If he had been at that triumph. So I think what's about to happen here is a big indication that he's not doing this just for noble reasons. I think Gaius is a very ambitious person who wants to... Or at least, if that's not true, because we can't say that, you could very easily read this as him being ambitious and a bit power hungry.
I mean, even if he...
Because basically they try and get him a third extension. He says, no, I'm coming back to Rome. That's illegal. You're like abandoning your post. It's basically kind of soft treason.
That's a soft treason. Okay.
So he's like, nah, he leaves.
Mild treason.
And I want to state, sometimes people will try to imply, especially ancient authors, that he's like, pissed because they're holding him back. But it's not true. He's 28 right now.
Okay.
The average Roman doesn't get his position till they're like 30. So he's ahead of the curve. And it would have benefited him to stay for the triumph.
Yeah, well, he had that dream that said that his brother told him that he'd die. So.
But I'm trying to say, because sometimes it's presented as like, oh, the Senate kept extending his stay because they didn't want him to come back to Rome. That's like not true. They were just doing a very normal thing. And it would have been good for him politically, like I said, to be part of a triumph.
Right.
But he wasn't having this. For whatever his personal reasons are, we'll never know.
Well, then is it really... because he's power hungry then? If this was good for him, if this would have secured his spot in the future, then...
Yeah, but the Tribune is a better role than what he's in. So I think it's like
but I'm pretty sure he could basically secure himself Tribune of the Plebs if he comes back, has a triumph.
Yeah, I know, but
participates in it anyway.
I'm saying I think he's a bit like hot-headed. He doesn't like... A bit...
hot-headed,
impulsive, you know?
Okay.
Like, I'm not going to wait another 2 years, whatever, they're keeping me in this...
Okay, that's not necessarily just ambition at that point.
No.
Like, pure ambition would be, I'm staying behind and accruing as much soft
But you'll
power
notice
as I can.
He's not as politically gifted as Tiberius, in the sense that he doesn't have as good a sense for... Like, he's not a patient guy, he doesn't have the sense...
I mean, he's not even standing still during his speeches.
Yeah. And I mean, this is all speculation. Like, I don't know him personally, you know? No one... But that's the read I get on him. Is that he's like more like impulsive and a bit more, a bit less politically savvy, but far more of like a firebrand. And he's willing to like do more radical things,
just like his populist brother.
Yeah, but even like Tiberius wanted to do one thing: the land commission. He was willing to do some kind of illegal things that were not without precedent, but were pretty unprecedented, you know. And he didn't incite any violence himself, really.
He just got the violence incited upon him.
We'll see his brother does incite violence. So anyways, he gets sent back. Well, he goes back to Rome.
Right.
And then he gets called before a tribunal in the Senate to answer for why he abandoned.
You want to become tribune of the plebs? Here's a tribunal.
Yeah. And he has to answer. There's a really famous speech that is
totally
probably not true.
made up.
Where basically he goes, yeah, but these guys were corrupt. They were stealing from the villagers, da-da-da. And anyways, they acquit him. That's what's important. Or they don't have enough evidence, or either his punishment was so minor that it's not worth mentioning, he got fined or something, or they decided the punishment, we just don't know why, but basically gets off scot-free and he's able to run.
Yeah, gets a slap on the wrist at most.
So he gets to run for tribune of the pleb. He wants to be tribune in the year 123. He runs, unsurprisingly, from someone who's from such a distinguished family. He wins. There's like 12 tribunes, right? So it's not a super competitive position, especially when you're like famous like him.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Also, yeah, I wrote, and I forgot to say this, that him returning to Rome is another violation of the traditional law, as we've seen is becoming a very big trend in most of this.
Yeah, well, you know, his brother didn't respect it, and he became quasi-immortal in terms of his memory. So.
Yeah. So he wins the election. He becomes tribune for the year 123, and in his first year, he works to pass... so basically, while he's in office, he's going to run more than once, if you couldn't guess. He's going to win more than once. He works to pass a whole bunch of legislation, not like his brother, just to ram through like a ton of stuff.
No veto?
It's really, actually, no, well, we'll get into this. Trying to ram through a bunch of legislation, and he's trying to do something that's a little new in Roman politics. He's trying to build like a coalition of people, because basically his whole goal is to destroy the power of the Senate.
Oh, damn, okay. They just acquitted you.
Why he wants to do that, we don't know.
Because they killed his brother.
Some people say it's because he wants to institute a democracy in like a Greek style. These are ancient authors. Another ancient author speculates that he wants to become king. And the third one's just like, yeah, he does this out of spite because of what happened to his family. It's probably a mix of like spite and genuinely wanting to do political reform.
Yeah, is there any like clue that he was into the Greek system of politics, or
well,
is that just
I'll
like
tell you what he
example?
tried to pass, and you can let me know what you think of that.
Okay.
But he was like most Romans, educated in that kind of tradition. So
yeah, but he was also most likely educated in viewing the systems as, though commendable, still inferior to Roman politics.
So yeah, he tries to pass a bunch of legislation. It's really difficult to say what he passed and what he didn't, because a lot of it's often just mentions of laws, like were they fully passed. We know a few were passed. So I'll tell you the ones that we know were passed, and then the other ones I'll put a little asterisk. They might have been passed and didn't stick, whatever. It's like very murky.
Right.
But we do know he tried to pass all of these at least. In his first year, he tries to pass, well, he does pass. This one's a successful one. A law providing grain at a fixed price, below market value.
Price controls?
It's cheap government grain, funded by Roman taxes.
Welfare.
Then he briefly tries to revive the land commission. That fails horribly. The Senate isn't having none of that.
Last time that happened, it didn't go so well. People got upset. They got a rebellion. They had to kill a guy. We're not doing it again.
So like I was saying, he's trying to build a coalition to take down the Senate. So you're going to see like the law for the cheap grain, that's because he's trying to get the urban poor on his side.
Makes sense.
And why this works, I kind of have to do another little digression. So Roman politics is built a lot around clients and patronage.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a legal obligation, but it's a social obligation. So if you do something for someone, it's kind of viewed that they have to do it for you. This is a really crude explanation, but you have to do it for them. So
it's like clientelism. That's
yeah,
what they call it.
Often you see it on an individual level, like I'll patronize your art studio and you'll do stuff for my family. You have an obligation to me.
Right.
This also applies on a political level. Again, like he can't force these plebs to vote for him, but they would have felt a very strong social obligation to vote for him now.
I mean, even today you kind of get that, right?
But more than today. It's not like, oh, he did something I liked. It's
no, but I mean,
owe him my like.
No, but I mean, like even like kind of in local politics, that's what you see a lot more of, right? It's like, oh, this guy got, to pass this this item that like helps me build something. So it's like, oh, so I'll give him a few dollars next campaign or something. But you're right that I guess in Rome it's a lot more intense.
It's a social obligation. It's because they're very much an honor culture. It's a bit like how later on you'll see that the soldiers become very indebted to their commanders and will follow them into civil war and all that, right? So he's trying to indebt all these people of different social classes, like you'll see behind him, so that he can fight the senators.
He's collecting different classes of Roman, like Pokemon.
Yeah, like Pokemon. So yeah.
Urban poor, I choose you.
Yeah, so this starts to worry the Senate in his first year, because Roman politics, like I was saying, is designed to rotate power to prevent one man from getting too many people through patronage.
I see.
You don't want someone to be responsible for too many good things, because then people are too obligated to vote for him, and then you end up with kings. That's why they only serve for 1 year and non-consecutive.
Unless we extend their consulship.
Yeah, but as a general rule. And yeah, Gaius is arguably trying to get around this, because what happens basically is most of the time when you do a piece of legislation in Rome, you're not the one who implements it, and you shouldn't be the one who implements it.
No, checks and balances.
Because checks and balances, and they don't want too many people indebted to you. What Gaius does is he makes himself personally in charge of all these, so he becomes the guy who's in charge of the grain distribution.
Oh boy.
He would have made himself in charge of the land commission.
He becomes point man.
He also tries to, and then the second term, he tries to pass, he reforms the juries, who were responsible for judging accusations of corruption against provincial governors, ostensibly to prevent corruption. But he makes the juries composed, because basically originally they're composed of senators. Kind of stupid. Your senators are judging other senators for corruption.
Yeah.
Governors. But then he makes them composed of equites. It comes from equestrians. They're equestrians, basically.
Knights?
They're just like the rich people of Rome who aren't politicians and don't have like noble blood, like senators.
Okay.
They're like the burghers.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Like the bourgeoisie.
Yeah, because senators aren't allowed to own businesses either. So these are like a wealthy merchant class.
Oh, so it really is the bourgeoisie.
Yeah. So now that's the jury. The problem is the people who collect the taxes, the people bribing the governors so they can take more money, are from this class.
Oh.
So it's even worse.
So they've given them a blank check for the people who are allowed to own businesses and they're the most successful at it to just take money.
So it's a win for the equestrians, not a win for solving corruption. It basically continues unchecked.
But I mean, it makes sense. It's like it really is getting the equites on your side to overthrow the senators.
Yeah, he's trying to build a coalition. He also tries to expand the Senate to include 300 of these guys. The Senate was not having that.
It's like first
that didn't pass.
First, you make the corruption
trials.
Corruption trials run by people who participate in the corruption, and then you try to get those people into the Senate. No, thank you.
And on top of that, like you can imagine, because of what I was saying, like he wants to accumulate patronage. He would have, if he had succeeded, he would have picked and put himself in charge of picking who those 300 were. He gets to say, "Oh, I'm the one basically running the corruption jury system." Like he really tries to.
I mean, how many people are the Senate at that point?
600, I think.
So they're trying to 1/3. It's like I will personally pick 1/3 of the Senate.
Yeah, you can see how the Senate might be going. Well, shit, this guy wants to become a tyrant. Like he wants to become like it's not unfounded. Unlike with his brother, I feel.
Yeah, no, he's collecting people who are indebted to him
like
personally.
He's building up a state within a state. Like he's doing some sketchy
secret
stuff.
society.
So yeah, that's what he's doing. And then after this, generally, I will say, he's much more provocative than his brother, if you couldn't tell by all the legislation he tries to ram through in his 2 years of...
Well, if they're going to try and kill him anyway, his relatively mild-mannered brother, then might as well just go hog wild.
But what's interesting is the Senate's reaction is much more restrained this time. They don't go out and kill him in the street the second time he becomes tribune, okay? He gets elected the second time and they let it happen.
It's so funny. They both learned lessons. It's like, oh, well, his brother learned, be as fiery as you can. They're going to try to kill you anyway. And the Senate's like, let's not get this situation with Tiberius. It was
all over
a
again.
Whole mess. Let's just try and calm down while this guy's just poking at them with a stick like, do something,
So like I said, he runs for tribune again the following year. And do you want to know how he gets through it legally? Because you're not supposed to run twice. Because his brother just did that. His brother's just popular enough to run twice, and they just had to be like, well, what are you going to do about it now? I'm elected.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm going to exploit a legal loophole that basically says if there's not enough candidates in a year for tribune, you can do a write-in candidate. But you don't have to register, and you only can't, if that makes sense, like you can't register 2 years in a row, but there's nothing saying you can't get elected 2 years in a row.
Oh, that's such pedantic.
So he's like, well, actually, I was a write-in candidate this year.
Pedantic rules lawyering. Oh my god.
But I will say he's very popular at this point. There's some descriptions of like during his speeches.
But why didn't he just go like, oh well,
because that's how his brother got killed.
Oh.
Because remember he ran the second time, and then while he's giving the speech in the form like, nah, they beat him to death. So I think he's wary of pushing it too far. Like he's still trying to maintain that veneer that what he's doing is legal.
Okay, so he took a different veneer. Instead of it's not a written law, whatever, I'll just ignore it. He's like, oh well, I didn't register for a second year.
It's like I'm respecting the law as written, nothing but the writing candidates.
Yeah, it doesn't say that you can't be.
I would hate to be a Roman lawyer, a Roman constitutional lawyer. Like, I don't think that's a real job, but
no, but. Or at least, like, I'm sure they had some sort of lawyer, or, like, juror or something, because, I mean, isn't that what Cicero was for the longest time?
Yeah,
an
I'm saying it's not a job, but not in the way we would conceive it, but there were people who studied this stuff.
Exactly, people who study it, and imagine being,
jurors,
yeah, being that guy, and then just, like, it doesn't say that, it says that I can't be registered. It doesn't say that I can't be voted in. So, actually...
So, yeah, I think it's a bit of trying to avoid his brother's fate when he did this. And
wow.
Yeah, he's pretty. I will say right now he's hitting like kind of the peak of his popularity.
Yeah. 1 second, actually, but just before we move on, I do find it funny that his thought is like, well, clearly they killed him because he registered the second time, not because he was trying to be tribune of the plebs a second time. So I'll do the same thing, but for a different reason, and they won't try to kill me this time.
And he's right, because the Senate kind of learned their lesson.
For sure, but just the idea that
the logic is goofy. Yeah,
it's very goofy, and I find it very funny.
So yeah, I'm saying like right now, this is like the peak of his popularity. Like the people come out, and if you believe the accounts, it comes out. People come out in the street when he's speaking in the forum. They're like on the rooftops. Like he easily gets elected a second time.
Right.
Then he tries to pass some more of that legislation I was talking about. And he's also popular enough to get his preferred consul elected. So his preferred consul is Marcus, who I was talking about before, his kind of mentor. He manages to use kind of his clout to push him over the finish line. So he's one of the consuls.
Right.
Or sorry, he gets elected as tribune, Marcus, because he's a
pope. So he's the second tribune.
He's one of the he's a second tribune.
So that's why he doesn't get vetoed, I guess. Or at least in that second term, he wouldn't get vetoed by the other tribune.
There's another guy who's not important enough to name who is his preferred candidate for consul.
Okay.
So he's got allies in the consulship and other allies in the tribune. So he's doing well.
Really, the was it the deep state?
Yeah, and I want to remind you, this is all taking place like 10 years after Tiberius died. So a lot of the senators were alive when that happened. They were junior senators, but they were there. They saw that happen.
I'm personally the guy who lobbed the chair at Tiberius's head, and now I'm seeing his brother do the same shit.
So you can imagine, it's not an unfounded fear in the Senate that what he's doing is he's trying to assert control, like, and empower himself.
I mean, the way you're saying it, it sounds like that's what he's doing.
I don't know. Why he wants to do that is the big mystery for me.
You forgot, you omitted the everyone gets a puppy and gets to feel happy law that he passed.
Well, I mean, he's passing, like, arguably good. Like, what he's doing is good for Rome. We'll get to what he's doing, especially is good for Rome, the citizenship stuff. The poor people don't starve as much anymore. The shit with the corruption was going to happen kind of anyways.
Yeah, I guess.
That is not good for Rome, but...
No, but I guess you do get equites to kind of pay some of their taxes because they don't feel like they're going to be chased by the government for, like, I don't know. I'm trying to think, like, if you make corruption basically legal, what would be the benefit to the Roman state?
There isn't. That was a purely political.
That was purely just to add to your coalition.
Without getting into the goofy setup of how the taxation works, because basically in the provinces, the governors didn't do the taxation. They would hire like private tax collectors to do it. So they would pay the government for the right to collect taxes.
Right.
So you collect taxes and then a little extra for yourself. That's legal.
Skim a little on
But
top.
what they would do is collect way more extra for themselves.
Yeah.
And they would bribe the governor to not like fire them for that.
Okay.
So now you got a jury composed of all these people from the same economic class who are trying these people for corruption.
And that's why we don't do private tax collection anymore.
He tries. No, never mind. Ignore that.
Okay.
But you know, and also I forgot to mention too, he institutes. This might have passed or might have not. We're really unclear. But he was going to make it so the Roman state had to pay for the soldiers' clothes and equipment.
Well, isn't that something that's done later?
Yeah. So that's what we're saying. Like, even if it did pass, it must have fallen out of favor after he comes out of power.
Okay.
But he tries at least. We know that because there's debates about it. So he is trying to like better the situation of the poor, probably to increase his power. If you want to be cynical.
I mean, also for specifically the clothes for soldiers. It's like, yeah, well, we want to help the urban poor by letting them be in the military and die for us.
So that's good for Rome too. You know, like I don't know. It depends how you want to frame him.
No, I mean it's a good like they do it later and it works spectacularly. So clearly there's something there. But I do find it funny how it's like, oh, we you know. We're going to make sure our men are good when they go die for us. We'll make sure they can afford to die for us.
Die for us. So yeah, all of this tackling the part in the Senate is basically building to his attempt to expand citizenship to the Italian allies.
The crescendo.
I'm going to say there's two ways you can read this. You can read it ultra cynically in that I want to expand Italian citizenship because now we're doubling the voting population. Half of them are now indebted to me because I gave them citizenship. One could read it like that.
Pretty good motivation.
Or you could read it more in the way that Marcus was intending for it to be done, in that this is a problem that's going to like come back and bite us in the ass if we don't deal with this.
Could be a little column A, a little column B.
Probably a little bit of both. And Marcus was right. You know, the social war is because they don't get citizenship and they kill each other over this.
And if it is inevitable, regardless, might as well be the guy to directly benefit from it.
Yeah, is what he would say, probably. But you know, you can read it either way. Either that like he really thought that this was what had to be done, which is how some of the authors depict him. Some of them are more like, yeah, he was doing this more like as a political move.
Right.
You can read it either way. It's one of those things that's kind of unclear. So, in response to all of these moves by Tiberius, this is all happening during, like, what I'm about to describe is happening during his second time as tribune. So that's in 122 BC.
Right.
So now, while all these elections are going on, the Senate decides to fight him at his own game, right? So they back their own candidate as a tribune.
Okay.
A guy named Marcus Livius Drusus. Marcus Livius.
Drusus?
Yeah.
Okay.
Who basically they task with, get this, a complete 180 from their response to his brother, with enacting even more generous versions of his policies to take the wind out of his sails. And it's much easier for him to pass stuff because he's got the backing of the Senate.
So then people will be indebted to the both of them, so they can't act against them.
Basically, they had him propose. There's a whole little like excerpt of this where it's like, Gaius will propose 2 colonies, Livius proposes 12 colonies. It's like he just tries to one up him at everything.
It's a populism off.
Yeah, it's a populism off. And what he does is that he doesn't implement all these himself. He doesn't put himself as the head of all these projects he's putting. He's like doing what Romans are supposed to do and distributing the power and the patronage to a bunch of other people.
Okay, delegating a little bit.
Yeah, like what the Senate would want. Because they don't want, basically the Senate's afraid one man will concentrate too much power. So he's not doing the Gaius thing of I'm in charge of the land commission, I'm in charge of the grain distribution. He's doing, I'm going to pass this law and then I'm going to assign someone that the Senate backs.
Doing it properly, quote unquote.
Yeah, legally. Or
well, it's all legal.
And he also made a thing about blocking Gaius's proposals, just vetoing everything he tried to pass.
Yeah, veto it, and I'll one up you as well.
And I will say, in most of the secondary sources I read, like one of them calls it, this is just a big political trick. The Senate doesn't really care about the plebs.
Yeah, I'm sure if they do like, we'll have 12 colonies, they actually just put in like one. Like they don't actually go through with
it's
all
a
of it.
legal political trick, but it's just a trick to take the wind out of his sails and make him like less appealing, basically.
Nice.
But it's an interesting strategy compared to beat them to death in the forum.
Yeah, I mean it's more likely to not make a mob rise up and try to overthrow you.
So after this, he tries to run again in 121 for the Tribunate of 121.
Is it a write-in candidate or actually registered?
As a write-in again, because he can't register.
It worked, it was legal. No one stopped
But
him.
he's starting to lose a lot of popularity around this time because of the Senate. So he loses the election.
Oh.
Now, he claims this was a fraudulent election and they stuffed the ballots.
Never heard that one before.
His opponents, because I don't know how to say it. I think the academic consensus is that he actually lost and then claims fraud. But I've also read in ancient sources that he wins and the Senate claims he committed fraud and they boot him out. So it's a very messy election, we'll say.
Okay.
But I think the academic
It's
consensus,
close enough that it could be argued that
it could be argued either way, but I think the general consensus is that he lost and then he starts saying, well, they defrauded me, rather than vice versa.
Okay.
It's a very messy election. It's a lot of tensions brewing. I'm saying he's less popular, but he still has a support base,
Yeah.
He's just not enough to win.
Plenty of people personally indebted to him after all.
And another indication that he's becoming less popular is that a completely different strain of politics starts to become popular because, do you know who gets elected consul this year?
Who?
Lucius Optimus.
Optimus?
Optimus.
Oh, yeah, I remember him. He's the one who...
burned the city down.
Yeah, burned the city
now he's
down.
consul. He's no longer praetor. He's consul this year.
Well, hopefully he doesn't do it to Rome.
So in response to losing, Gaius rallies his supporters, who are they're armed. They're armed supporters.
They're not your average supporter. They're actually armed to the teeth.
Yeah, and he gets into this. They're in the forum, obviously, and they get into this big confrontation with a bunch of anti-Gaius people, and someone gets knifed to death with a stylus because they're not allowed to bring weapons in the room, so it's all like improvised weaponry.
So Tiberius is the chair, and then one of the Gaius supporters gets...
One of the Gaius supporters stabs somebody.
Oh, okay.
And we don't know who or why. There's two versions I've heard. So either it was a random third party who was like coming up to console him, and they misinterpreted that and shanked them.
Oh my
or
gosh.
It was one of the what'll later be known as the Optimates because of this guy's name. Flipped him the Roman equivalent of the bird, basically, like flipped him off, and then he got shanked by somebody.
Prison style.
What's very clear from even the ancient sources is that this was unintentional. Like, guys didn't order them to kill anybody.
No, again, tensions are flaring. His whole thing is that he's trying to get like legal loopholes, get things worked through legally, even if it's like provoking a lot of people. So I imagine murder isn't exactly.
I
a
will
way
say
to get to
though,
that.
even if he didn't intend for that, he did gather an armed mob during a period of heightened political tensions.
Yeah,
like,
but it's to threaten them. It's
Yeah,
to make them feel like.
I will say he didn't like say like
it's the
kill these guys.
implication.
It's the implication.
It's the implication. They weren't actually supposed to stab the guy.
So then,
He would never hurt these other supporters.
so Gaius is here, Marcus is here. Remember too, the big names. They're both there, and they try to win over the crowd in the forum. Basically, they're like, they try to like convince them to their side. Pretty unsuccessful. I mean, they did just stab a guy in broad daylight.
Yeah.
So everyone goes back to their homes after this. The situation
Curfew.
The situation like de-escalates. People go home, disperses.
They think about what they've done.
And it's because it starts to rain, basically.
Isn't that like one of like the 1848 equivalent revolution in Britain didn't happen because it was raining?
Yeah, that's true. And then Optimus summons the Senate the next day, and the Senate calls Gaius and Marcus to attend and give an account, like what happened, like basically like justify what happened and explain yourselves.
Make a report.
There's people argue, is it Gaius that was like, because it's going to escalate, is it Gaius who's at fault? Is it Marcus who's like kind of leading him along?
Right.
You can make your own judgments. I don't have time to like go into all the sources. Basically, what happens is, sorry, I have to scroll down. This doesn't go well. There's a big argument in the Senate. And then Gaius and Marcus gather up their supporters and they fortify themselves on the Aventine Hill,
Okay.
which is one of the 7 hills of Rome. So they like take over a quarter of the city. Like, not a quarter, but like a neighborhood. Like
Yeah,
a
okay.
region of the city. And they fortify themselves in the temple of Diana.
No.
And then they don't come out because they're like afraid of what's going to happen now.
They've gone too far. Now they can't get out.
They send out, Gaius doesn't come out, Marcus doesn't come out. They send out Marcus's kid,
Oh,
who's like a grown man, not like a child, but.
no, I know, but it's still,
And they sent him to negotiate with the Senate. And the Senate's like, okay,
talk to my lawyer, my son.
The Senate's like, put down your weapons. Come out, we'll do an inquiry into all this, okay? It doesn't have to end badly yet.
We just need to do an investigation.
I think
Come out and talk to us.
I think they hit the point of no return when they took over part of the city, but the Senate's like, come out and talk to us. So it's a large section of the city that they've fortified, and it's an armed band, They're, like, theoretically, they could menace the whole town.
Yeah.
And then guess what Optimus and the Senate do now?
The guy who burned the rebelling city, what did he do?
He was like, I think he's itching for a fight. Anyways, they raise a military force and they decide to like attack the hill.
An army in Rome?
Yeah.
You can't do that.
So there was a brief kind of street battle in there where there was
Sick.
considerable bloodshed with actual weapons this time. So not just,
not styluses, not people stabbing each other with
but
hitting each other
a lot
with
of people
chairs.
escape because it's very chaotic. A lot of people escape, including Gaius and Marcus. Which, this is the famous story where afterwards Optimus offers their heads weight in gold if you bring them back to him.
Jesus.
And he also goes, like, hunts these people down, the ones who escapes, and kills, like, their supporters, like, methodically. Like, this is not, like, the first time there.
The murder man does more murder.
Yeah, like,
got it.
Even the guys who escape, he hunts them down and kills, like, even the regular supporters. And eventually, Gaius, depending on the version, either Gaius is betrayed by a slave, or he asks his slave to kill him, and then some other guy finds his body, ends up with the head, and he fills it up with lead. So he can get more money out of it.
Nice.
And Optimus is like, whatever, I don't care, I'll pay you the weight.
Yeah. I should have expected this.
And then, if you're curious, Plutarch claims that there's about 3,000 citizens died. That's a lot of people.
That, especially back in that day, god dang.
And Appian said it was so bad they had to do like a ritual purification of the city afterwards.
I could believe that. I mean, I imagine it's a big deal because it's like the first time people bring weapons and like kill other Romans like in Rome.
One army, like
army, yeah.
And Optimus comes out of this looking like a monster, like a bloodthirsty. Even to the Senate is horrified by what he did because they told him to go like boot them out, but he slaughters the supporters when
It's
they're
so
running
funny.
away.
They have such short memory. They went to say put down the rebellion in this city, and they raise it to the ground to the point that there's like geological markers, and then they're like, okay, well now
Let's
you're in
send this
Rome, you're a
lunatic.
consul. Let's just send you out to deal with these brigands.
What I think is even funnier is that the party, because when you want it, often in Roman historiography, we'll talk about the populari, which is the people who kind of descend from Gaius and Tiberius' type of political thought, and then the Optimates, who are like the Senate party, but they get their name from this guy.
I wonder what that says about their conduct.
But yeah, even the people of his day thought that this was extreme. He's ordered to build a new a temple to Concord, like the goddess of peace and like whatever as like punishment.
Let's give Murder McMurderson the job of building the temple to peace.
People hated this. So basically, he escapes legal trouble because he defends himself in court saying, I was just following orders, like I was following the Senate's instructions.
I mean, he's also the consul, right? So he's supposed to have legal protection.
No, but the next year.
Oh, once he's out.
Yeah, they try him right away.
the second he's out of office.
Yeah. And he goes, well, just following orders and whatever. They decide to just pack him up and send
Wait,
him
he's
up.
consul. Isn't the one giving or whatever?
Well,
Never mind.
The consuls are still ultimately answer to the Senate.
It's like saying the president answers to the Congress, but okay, yeah,
Sure.
sure.
It's true in theory.
Okay.
Anyways, they're like, whatever.
I guess no, it's more like saying the prime minister answers to the parliament.
Yeah, they can't convict him. They won't get anything to stick, so they ship him off to Numidia on mission to oversee the inheritance. This is like all side stuff. This doesn't matter. I just think it's really funny. They ship him
Listen,
off.
there shouldn't be anybody for you to murder in Numidia. Go there and calm down.
And he's supposed to oversee a commission over the inheritance of the kingdom. This is where Jugurtha is. You know that? Like that
Oh,
story?
Jugurtha?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's overseeing the inheritance of that kingdom.
Oh my
god. And he fucks it up so bad that when he comes back, they actually convict him and exile him after that.
Oh my god. He was consul.
Yeah, he fucks up because Jugurtha inherits the whole kingdom because he bribes him.
Oh, sick.
And then they're like, well, shit. Well, okay. Well, we can get him on these charges, and they exile him, and he dies in exile.
Yeah, it's much simpler than killing potentially 3,000 of our fellow Romans when you're just sent to disband the brigands that.
I like how they got him on
occupying a
corruption
hill.
charges of all things.
Listen,
They got Al
I
Capone
hate
on
to
tax
make more
evasion.
I was gonna say I hate to make more parallels, but you know what did they get Trump on? It was the misallocation of campaign funds.
Yeah.
And there you go. It's always about the money. It's much easier to convict someone on the money than for murder.
Yep. So what do you think of all that?
Oh my God. I mean, many things. That's, it's. So you're saying like he was an orator, right? That was Gaius's thing.
Yeah.
He was a
Public speaker, firebrand. Traditionally, he's depicted as a man of the people. After he dies, like I said, he gets not deified, but he becomes like a folk hero,
Okay.
like a Robin Hood, basically.
Though I do have to say it is interesting because, Tiberius comes to him in a dream or whatever, but the whole thing is that he follows Tiberius. But the way they die is very different. Like Tiberius is just murdered by the Senate, like
Yeah.
very directly.
He's
but
run
Gaius,
down by like the army.
Yeah, he's run down by the army, but in the end he gets killed by a slave under I guess dies under
Either
mysterious
he asks the
circumstances.
slave to kill him because he's afraid of what'll happen to him, or the slave kills him.
But
for
how do they know how
the
he died if they just found his corpse?
The witnesses. There was because he was with people. I mean, I don't know. I don't actually. I'm not going to say that because I don't know. It's in the ancient sources, but we don't know necessarily where.
I'm assuming then if it's a slave or something, then it seems like they're pretty confident it's like one of his servants, and they're just not sure of the exact reason for it, which makes sense. Like, when things crazy, like you don't know what the exact motivation is for it. But I mean, I don't see much reason why the slave would kill him. I'm assuming he asked, is like, if the military gets me, I'm gonna get crucified or something. It's not gonna go well.
And I will say, this is a pretty.
Actually, there's a question. What happened to the guy who replaced his brother? Right, what was his name again? Marcus.
Marcus?
What happened to him?
He dies. He's killed in the slaughter too. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, yeah.
They're all like they both get hunted down.
What about his son that he sent out as a?
I think he lives. But I'm not sure about that, so I won't.
He
say
had the
anything.
balls to
I
come
do
up
know
and walk to
Marcus specifically gets slaughtered as part of this larger. Like this happens over a couple. This isn't one day. This is like a few days of like carnage and like hunting down supporters. But eventually he gets caught and killed.
Listen, if I know Optimus.
Yeah, Optimus.
Yeah. If I know Optimus, putting down a rebellion is not a one-day affair.
I
Good
love this
man.
guy. I can't believe that's where the name for their political faction. And that's what they wouldn't have called themselves that, but later Roman historians will use that.
I mean, it makes sense. They're the ones with the kill lists and stuff. Like, they seem like Optimus types.
But it was a big departure that they're killing people in Rome now, and it's a big escalation even from Tiberius.
Yeah, and also, I mean, you're talking about the guys who like marched armies into Rome. That he's the guy. I mean,
He's the first guy, really.
He is the first. So it's very fitting. Say what you will about their creative liberties. I think that one was a pretty apt comparison to call them optimates.
Yeah.
In a weird, I don't like. Gaius is interesting, especially in comparison to his brother. He's definitely like more significant.
And I gave him and I will say, this is a pretty uncharitable reading I did, and that's just because I think it's more interesting than the narrative because the most common narrative you get is like the folk hero unfairly killed by the government. That might also, there's elements of truth to that too. I don't want to like lean too hard into, he was just a self-serving, cynical person. I think it's more interesting to talk about that because it's less.
I mean,
examined.
like, again, it's always a mix of both, right?
Yeah,
like,
I think he's complicated. He's a person like anyone else. I don't think.
I'm like, to achieve certain things, you need a certain amount of power, and so you have to do certain things. But then, so yeah, you're trying to get yourself into higher positions, but also you could be using that to help other people at the same time, right? It's like Caesar's whole thing. It's like, he was loved. He was a people's, the people's hero, but also he made himself dictator for life. It's like, to know what happened deep in his mind, I think we're a bit too far beyond.
Yeah,
we don't have his diary or anything, but either way, both could be true, right? Like he helped the urban poor. He created
the citizenship thing. I think was very prescient and like him seeing the writing on the wall, and that's he was influenced in large part by his mentor, who definitely saw the writing on the wall. We got to deal with this, or like we're gonna have a civil war, which they do. Just
exactly. So it's like I said
30, 40
before,
years.
this will inevitably happen. Let me be the guy to benefit from it.
Yeah, why shouldn't it be me?
Why shouldn't it be me? But yeah, wow.
What were you saying though before?
I don't remember.
Because you said Gaius was interesting, and then I interrupted.
I was gonna say Optimus. Honestly, so this is very
Fascinating guy.
He's like, in terms of psychology, I'm because Gaius seems like even if he's a firebrand, he seems like a reasonable dude. He seems like he's like, he's very rash, he's very impulsive, but he seems like he has like like things going on. He's setting on his
Plans,
ways,
and
and he's got plans. Optimus just seems like a psychopath. He's just seen like
I was just following orders. Is like I wonder if this is the earliest account of I was just following.
I mean,
orders.
the earliest written documentation of I was just following orders. I mean, especially because plenty of people have done terrible things just following orders or whatever, but he must be the first to
defend himself in
justify it.
court. Yeah, it's like I'm just following orders.
And then 2,000 years later, Nuremberg.
He is a weird or an interesting figure, because he represents to me, I find, the new generation of senators after this. He's like the new generation of politics. I think he's like a herald of what's to come later.
Yeah, because it seems like, especially after Tiberius, it seems like Gaius is kind of expanding upon that, and it will later, really using popular appeal more than ever. Because like I think we were talking about before in the Tiberius episode, like, before it's like, oh, vote me in because I'm good at what I do.
See, they're running on platforms now instead of just on my family legacy. It's still a big part of it, but before you used to just run on your family name.
Yeah, but Gaius literally, like, he abandoned his post to come back, and he, like, proposed a platform afterwards. Like, even by the standards of the time, he, like, again, he abandoned his post, but he still voted in.
Yeah, and he came back with saying, I'm going to fix all the urban, like, the problems of the poor and whatever. I see why he's...
I did the thing you're not supposed to do for you.
Yeah.
It's again, it's very... It's very... You can find a lot of parallels to modern politics, which is what I love about these Gracchi brothers. You can see, like...
The seeds of some stuff, yeah.
The seeds of the modern world kind of being planted here and there. Wow. So, like, I keep getting stuck on the Land Commission just because I find that such an interesting...
Yeah, of course. I read a lot about it. So.
Yeah, it seems like such a very interesting, like, legacy of these people and how kind of... Like, speaking of planting seeds, it seems like they're planting the seeds to the empire in an interesting, like, politic-y way. So he doesn't succeed in bringing back the Land Commission, right?
He doesn't know. I think it is eventually revived.
It's eventually...
For different reasons, but... He doesn't succeed. The Senate blocks him because they had just did that thing where they said we're the only ones who are allowed to regulate it, and then they just didn't use it. So
okay, but it's still there. It
exists. It exists as a body. It just does nothing.
Okay.
It's like a legacy office. It's like a
but it's like.
But the legal framework is still there. Like they don't repeal the laws or dismantle the office. Just no one's
right. It's the Roman equivalent of the American SEC. Then it's like They're the anti-monopoly guys. It's like, yeah, they're there. Sometimes we just don't use them. Sometimes they're not allowed to do anything. But sometimes they do stuff. They rock they start
rocking the boat.
Yeah, rocking the boat, provoking people. And it's the most boring thing possible. The Land Commission.
The Land Commission. That's his
the Department of Internal Affairs is what crushes the Roman Senate.
And I mean, some other stuff. He has other legacies too, right? Like the cheap grain becomes a staple, especially in the empire.
Bread and circuses, right? Yeah,
becomes a staple. They don't repeal that. Even if they do, whether or not it's passed is debate. Like I was saying, the paying of equipment for soldiers, it does eventually become policy, whether it passed and they repealed it or whether it doesn't.
What's that guy's name? Right? Yeah, the Marian reforms. Yeah, that is interesting. It's like it's not just the citizenship, right? Like you can see they have kind of premonitions of like
the problems that they're going to face. Yeah,
and it's more like I can also like. Tiberius, he seems very stuck on like the Land Commission thing.
Because for him, all the problems in Rome originate from that.
But if anything, it also seems like Gaius is kind of smarter because he's tackling more of these issues kind of directly. Because it seems like the whole Tiberius' whole thing is like, we'll distribute the land and everything's kind of going to fix itself. Yeah. Like that's the solution to all these problems. When Gaius is like, no, people are hungry, give them food. People don't have citizenship, grant them citizenship.
He's kind of like in a messed up way the LBJ of his time, and then he rams through all kinds of legislation, and it's like really good legislation, but the way he's doing it is a really, really kind of questionable.
Even to the point that he rips his toga off.
Yeah. It's a crude comparison, but that just came to mind.
Wow. I mean, interesting dude.
He dies pretty young, too, though, now I think about it, too. He would have been in his late 30s, I guess.
Yeah, although I'm predicting this will not be the last Rome episode, so I'm going to be kind of excited to see how, like, these two people kind of plant the seeds.
I'm just going to keep going. It's like, okay, next time we'll talk about... who would be next, I guess? Like, we started to get into Marius, yeah. Yeah, Marius and Sulla, I think. Would be the next two that we could do.
The Optimate.
We could do those two. Yeah, you see the prescriptions.
Yeah, so that'll be a 2-hour one. That'll be a 2-parter, that's for sure, if you want to do that.
Maybe we'll do the social war then too, if everyone wants to see that.
But it'll be interesting, even if it's not obviously next week or super soon. It'll be nice to know this background once we get into like the more popularly known Republic stuff, because I feel like in pop history, right, you kind of dive right into Caesar. Like that's kind of where you start.
But he comes from he grows up in he grows up in the aftermath. He's a young kid. I think he's a young child during the Social War, right? He's growing up in the legacies of all these people.
Yeah, they shape their childhoods. It shapes the context in which they're brought up, and the world of politics that's created from these people who get murdered by the Senate.
Yeah.
So that's definitely not only from what I already know, but in the future when I learn more about these people, the more popular portions of Roman Republican history, it'll be good.
And I think it's fun too if we talk about the Social War, because we can talk about Spartacus and the slave rebellion. It was at the same time.
But that'll have to be for another time. For now, I think we're getting to the end of our time.
All right.
Thank you so much for sharing this with me. This will keep me up at night for a bit.
For a while.
But I guess we'll see you all later then as well.
Thanks everyone for listening.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.